Welcome to my channel and thank you to my subscribers. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. In this video, we are going to see how to integrate a simple web application which is available online with Google Sign-in so that users who have a Gmail account can sign in using their Gmail credentials and access your application. In the past, I have posted some videos where I have shown how to integrate Cognito, that is AWS Cognito, with Google Sign-in so that Gmail users can access your application which is integrated with Cognito. So here I'm going to show how to integrate your application directly with Google Sign-in without Cognito. So this is basically to understand how the Google Sign-in flow works. So before we get into the configuration steps, this is the diagram from the Google website. So you can actually go to, again, Google and search for Google OAuth 2 development, something like that. And then you will see the link where it will show using OAuth 2.0 to access Google APIs. And then if you scroll down, you will see this sequence diagram. So I will quickly explain this sequence diagram. This is a very high level sequence diagram. So we can see it in action once we do the final configuration and test the end-to-end flow. But at a very high level, what happens is when you try to access your application, then your application will redirect to Google, basically the Gmail login page. And then once you sign in using your Google credentials, Google might show a consent page where you need to agree or reject that request. So basically, if you agree, then Google will allow you to share the details, that is the Google profile details with that application, and then you can access that application. If you reject it, then Google will not go ahead with that redirection back to your application. Instead, it will throw an error. So if you agree to that sharing of details, then Google will redirect back to your application, which is again a browser redirect with an authorization code. And then your application can exchange that authorization code for a token by calling the Google backend APIs. And once you get the token, you will have all the details about the user. When I say all the details, like some basic profile details of the Gmail user, like the email address and few other details. And then based on that, you can then collect some additional details from the user. If there are any specific user preferences that you want to store within your app, then you can collect those additional details and then allow access to your application. So this is a very high level sequence diagram, and you may not understand it until and unless you do the complete configuration and then test the end-to-end flow and then trace all the network calls that happens between your app and Google. In that way, you can easily understand what is going on. So the very first step that we need to do is like you need to create a Google account. Like you can go to Google and register for a Gmail account. And once you do that, and when you come to this developer documentation, in the top of the documentation, you will see to obtain a OAuth 2 client credentials or to set up a OpenID Connect application, go to the Google API console. So open the Google API console from here. In my case, I'm already signed into my Google account. That's why it didn't show the login page. Otherwise, when you try to access it for the very first time, it will show the Gmail login page and you need to enter your Gmail credentials. I'm already signed in using my Gmail account. So once you come to this page, go to the credentials option. And here, when you're accessing this credentials option for the very first time, it will ask you to create a project. So you can create a project. I will call it as Google Demo Project. You can leave this organization and click Create. So now the project got created and you are already inside that project. Now, if you have multiple projects, then you need to actually go to the select project page and then select which project you want to access. In this case, this is the very first time I'm accessing the Google console using my ID, and so it asked me to create a project, and by default it selected that project. So now we are in this page where we can configure OAuth to client IDs, basically your application, your application's configuration. You can do all those things here. But before doing that, I will actually use Mozilla browser because I'm going to use Mozilla browser for testing. So I will access that sample web application that I mentioned initially, which is available online. So I'm going to use that web application for this testing. So in your case, if you're building your own web application, then you can write all the business logic to redirect to Google, get the authorization code from Google, then use that code to get tokens. There are like hundreds of libraries available in the internet which you can use and integrate with your web project to access the Google sign in and get the tokens from Google sign in. But here I'm just going to use a very simple web application which is available online and which I have used in many of my videos. So it's called as OpenID Connect Playground. And this is that application which I'm going to use. So here you can see that application, and here we need to do some configuration before this application, this online hosted web application can redirect to Google and allow Gmail users to access this application. But before doing that, we will go back to the Google console, developer console, and I'm going to use OpenID Connect. So whatever sequence diagram you saw here, it's basically an OpenID Connect authorization code grant flow integration between your application and Google sign-in. And that's what we are going to do now. So we are going to do all the configuration that is required to integrate that OpenID Connect Playground application with Google sign-in, which is basically Gmail sign-in. So we have to create a credential. We have to start with creating a credential. So when you click this create credential, it will have multiple options. So in this case, we are going to integrate a web application with Google sign-in. So you need to select the option OAuth client ID. And once you select that option, it will ask for configure consent screen. So go ahead and configure the consent screen. So as of now, we will just, I think since this is a developer option, like I don't have an enterprise account, I think it will not allow me to select internal, but I'm not sure. But anyway, let's select external, click create, and let's name the app as OIDC Playground. And it will ask for a support email. I will use my same email address. I'm not going to upload any logo file or something. As of now, let's leave all these things as is and click save and continue. It's actually asking this email as well. So I'm going to use my same email. So let's actually save and continue. Save and continue and back to the dashboard. So the OAuth consent screen is configured. So this is like just the basic configuration that we need to do. There are lots of options in that screen. If you see those one by one screen that you saw in the each step, there are multiple options. I have not explored all the options. You can always go ahead, go through the Google Docs and explore all the options. But just to do a basic Google sign-in integration for your app, you have to just configure that consent screen. Now go to the credential screen and again click create credentials, OAuth client ID. Now you see a different screen. It doesn't ask for that consent screen because you already configured it. And for the application type, select web application. Again, I'm going to name it as OIDC Playground. So basically, this is the app that I'm trying to integrate, and this is called as OpenID Connect Playground. So I'm just using a relevant name. And here I need to add a redirect URI. So click add URI. And here I need to add a URI where Google will redirect back with the authorization code. So if you look at this diagram, once the user logs in and gives the consent, Google will redirect back to your application with an authorization code. So in So that is the redirect URL that we are going to configure here. In my case, I'm using this OpenID Connect Playground application. And if you look at the redirect URI for this Playground application, this is the redirect URI. So copy this, paste it here, and click Create. So now you can see the client ID, client secret, all these values here. We need to configure these values in the Playground application. So as I said earlier, if you're building your own application and you're using some OIDC libraries for using Google Sign-in, you need to do all these configuration within your application. Here I'm just using a demo app that is available online so that it is easier for understanding the end-to-end flow. So click the configuration screen, select Google. So if you look at the discovery URL for Google, it is this accounts.google.com well-known configuration. So let me open it in a new tab and you can see all the values here. So when you open this OpenID configuration of Google, you will see what is the authorization endpoint. This is the endpoint where the Playground application will redirect to Google for authentication. And then you will see the token endpoint. This is the endpoint which the Playground app will use in the backend to get the tokens. And then you can see the user info endpoint. You can see all the different endpoints here. So when you enter that OpenID configuration URL here, it will automatically load all the details. But luckily for us, this Playground app already has the Google option. So you can actually just select Google and it will load all the details automatically. You don't have to do anything. The only thing that we need to do is update the client ID and secret value. So let's go back to this Google console, copy this client ID and replace it, and then copy this client secret and replace it. And we are only interested in OpenID profile email. So let's remove this phone and address and click Save. So now the integration between Google Sign-in and this web application is done. So let's actually go ahead and test it. So let's click the Start button. And I got redirected to Google Sign-in. And you can see here, sign in to continue to openidconnect.net. Google automatically displays all these details. So I'm going to use my same credentials. Like I don't have to enter at gmail.com. And I'm going to enter my password. So now I am logged in and I got an authorization code back to this Playground app. Now when I click Exchange, what this Playground app will do is it will actually call this Google token endpoint with the authorization code, and then it will get the ID token and access token. So let's click that. So I got the access token as well as the ID token. So let's again click next and view the ID token in jwt.io. So here you can see the ID token details. So you can see the issuer of this ID token is google.com, accounts.google.com, which clearly proves this ID token was generated using Google identity provider. And then you can see my email address here. It is already verified because I have already verified my Google email, because when you register for Google, it is going to ask you to enter some phone number or some other verification factors, and then it will ask you to verify your phone number, all those things. So Google already verified your email. That's why you are seeing email verified as true. And then my given name is security, family name is action 101. So this is the ID token. I can even copy the access token here, but I don't think it's going to have any major details. But anyway, let's actually check it. Oh, somewhere I missed it. So I got the access token. Looks like it's not a JWT token, so you can't really check what is contained in this token. I think it's an encrypted token, so I don't think you can actually check what is available in the token. But the ID token is a JWT token, and that's what we saw. When we clicked view on jwt.io, it was able to decode that ID token and show all the details. Now, the configuration is done, and this is how you integrate your application with Google Signin. I just used a sample web application which is available online, but if you're building your own web app, there are hundreds of libraries available to integrate your application with Google Signin, which will take care of all these things like redirecting to Google, getting the authorization code back from Google, then exchanging that code for ID token and access token, and getting the user details from the ID token. So you can use those libraries. But at a very high level, these are the end-to-end configuration that you need to do. Now let's quickly look at the network calls. So I will again clear the cookies and start this flow from beginning. So when I clear the cookies, I'm going to lose all the details. So let me again refresh this page. I need to configure again, I think. Oh, luckily it's already there. Okay, I don't have to configure this. So now let's again start from the first. So I will open this SAML tracer. So I'm going to click start. And let's see what happens in this SAML tracer. So SAML tracer is a plugin that is available in Firefox. You can install it, or you can use the Firefox developer tools for tracking the browser redirects. I just use this tool because it is very easily available, and it is very easy to use. So when I clicked that start button, what happened was the Playground app actually redirected to Google. So you can see the client ID here, and this client ID will match with the client ID that I configured here for OIDC Playground app. It will surely match. So you can see it starts with 41311, and you can see the same thing here. It starts with 41311. And then it sends the scope OpenID profile email. That's what I configured in the Playground configuration. And you can see the redirect URI, which we actually configured in the Google console as well. So if you look at this redirect URI, openidconnect.net/callback, you can see the same thing here. And then a state value, which is kind of a random value that gets generated for every request. So I will click clear, and now I will again log in. So now Google, after a successful login, redirected back to the Playground application with the authorization code. So you can see that here, like once I logged in successfully in this particular step, it actually Google redirected back to openidconnect.net/callback. And this is the URL which we configured as redirect URI. So Google redirected back to that URI with the same state value that was sent initially in the authorization code request, and it also returned an authorization code back to this client application. And that's what you can see here in this sequence diagram, where it says Google server will return an authorization code back to your app. Now again I will clear, but I don't think these calls will get traced, but let's check. Now when I click exchange, yeah, it did. Oh, it actually, no, it didn't trace. It didn't trace. So basically, when I clicked exchange, what happened was it called this particular API. You can see this API and the parameters that are passed to this API, the client ID, client secret, all these things. And then when this API, the token API was called, Google returned the access token and the ID token. So basically, the ID token identifies the user. When I say identifies the user, it shows the user details like the email address, the first name, last name, whether the email is verified, all those things. And the access token is used for accessing the Google APIs. Like Google has multiple APIs. which you can access, and based on the permissions that are available in the access token, basically the OAuth 2 scopes, you can access different Google APIs. That is kind of an advanced topic. I'm not getting into that at this point of time, because here my goal is to only show how to integrate your application with Google Signin so that users who have a Gmail account can access your app. So that's why I'm not going into all those advanced topics. Surely I will try to post a video in the future about those topics. So here you can see the ID token, access token, and again when you click it, the view on jwt.io, you can see all the details again. So it's pretty simple to integrate with Google Signin. And if you're building your own app, as I said, you will need to do some kind of coding, like integrate. If you're using a JavaScript, you can use some JavaScript library for integrating with Google. And then in the backend, there are like, I'm sure I have not used it, but I'm sure there might be some Java libraries as well, which you can use in the backend to call the token endpoints in the Google and get the tokens. Like Spring Boot provides all these integration out of the box, like the Spring Boot OAuth 2 dependency. If you add that Spring Boot OAuth 2 dependency, by default, it provides all these steps of redirecting to your identity provider like Google, getting the authorization code, getting the tokens. So Spring Boot provides all these things, and there are JavaScript libraries as well which can do all these things, all these steps which are shown in this sequence diagram. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or comments, please post your comments or questions in the YouTube video comment section, and I will be happy to respond. Thank you for watching, and again, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.